Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Hello and welcome. Let me begin with an apology. We came your way 14 minutes behind schedule. It was due to circumstances beyond our control. The city of Osogbo is becoming a construction center site, and so sometimes you find it difficult to get in there. But we are here at last. Thank you very much for your patience. Let me begin by saying that ever since HIV/AIDS became a pandemic in the mid-1980s, available data has informed that the first AIDS casualty was a male, and he was found out in the then Belgian Congo, what is today called Zaire. That was in the year 1957. 3 years later, a Scandinavian fell victim to this dreaded ailment. Before the French virologist Luc-Antoine Montague, an American scientist, Robert Charles Gallo, discovered the cause of AIDS in 1937, it was thought that the disease only affected gay men. This was why it was called gay-related immune deficiency, GRID, G-R-I-D. The pandemic has, in the last 40 years, remained a global concern, especially because AIDS is known to have no cure. However, people who have the HIV virus that lead to full-blown AIDS can still live as long as they want, of course, being on therapy. How well is the control of HIV in Nigeria, and in particular in Osun State? WHO tells us 95% of people living with AIDS, call them PL-HIVs, should by the year 2025 have a diagnosis. 95% should expectedly be on antiretroviral treatment. This is my concern. Our discussion is focusing on AIDS, and as the topic says, AIDS, how far is Osun State coping? In the studio with me is the man who must know it all, because the bulk of it stopped at his desk. AIDS is the acronym for immune deficiency syndrome, a serious disease that destroys the body's natural protection and from infection. In the studio with me is the Executive Secretary, Osun State Agency for the Control of AIDS. He's been a doctor for many years and has been a public servant almost all through his life. We'll get there because very soon he will clock 60 and leave.
Yeah.
Let me present to us a medical practitioner of note, a senior doctor, I should call him, Dr. Adeniyi. Did I get it right?
Yes, Adeniyi
Samuel
Oginni.
Oginni. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Yeah. Doctor, AIDS. The program is Pertinent Questions, so we want to ask pertinent questions.
Yeah.
I read out the statistics that the WHO said.
Yeah.
Now, how feasible is this for a country called Nigeria and its sub-state called Osun?
Thank you very much for having me, and I want to greet everyone that's watching from wherever you're watching from. The feasibility of achieving the target of 95, actually it's called 95, 95, 95.
Okay.
The first 95 is seeking to ensure that 95% of the entire population know their HIV status. That means that they must have been tested so that they will know their HIV status. That's 95%. Now, the next 95 is to say that of all the people who test positive, 95% of them must be on antiretroviral treatment.
Yeah.
And then the last 95 is that 95% of all the people that are on antiretroviral therapy achieve viral load suppression. You get viral load suppression status when you have so few copies of the virus in your system that it can no longer be transmitted from you to another person. Okay. So that's why we break the transmission, of HIV. So the feasibility is that, yes, it is possible. But for year 2025, it might be a very tall order.
Why?
For year 2025. Because even as at now, we are still far from the first 95. Because the first 95 is to say that, okay, if you have 100 people in this place, like in this studio, for instance, 95 out of the 100 must know their HIV status. If I start asking one by one, how many of us know our HIV status? How many people have been tested? Now, people don't want to come out to be tested because there is discrimination. So they don't want to come out to be tested. So the efforts to make everybody submit themselves for the test is not actually, yielding much result. And that's why even the first 95 is a challenge, which we may not attain by the year 2025, not even by the year 2030, except, of course, we amplify activities around sensitizing the public about the fact that this disease is no longer it's no longer a disease that doesn't have a cure. There's a cure, because right now you can suppress the load of the virus to a level where you're no longer transmissible, and then it's no longer affecting your system the way it used to do in the past when there were no highly active antiretroviral drugs. So that's...
You spoke of amplification.
Yes.
What steps is government taking, therefore, to amplify? I agree with you. The average Nigerian doesn't want to. So that was the question why, the reason I even had to ask, is it possible? Is it achievable?
Yeah, it is achievable. It's just the time. And then, yes, what must the government do? You see, I came into the HIV space just about 6 months ago, even though I'm a WHO fellow in public health, so I've worked in different aspects of public health. But I just came into the state HIV space in October 2023. And now since I came on board, one of the things that I've done is to go through all of the things that this state has achieved in the past. In the year 2002, the prevalence of HIV in this state was nearing about 4%. But right now it is 0.9%, which is very good for us, 0.9%. Now with 0.9%, what it means is that we have about 50,000 people that are living with HIV/AIDS. Now, the government of the state, through the State House of Assembly, has passed a law, and that is the Osun HIV anti-discriminating law that prevents or that criminalizes any act of stigmatization or discrimination against persons that are living with HIV and AIDS. Now, that is one giant leap in achieving or in a move towards achieving the target of the first 95. That means once you know that you can no longer be discriminated against, you can no longer be stigmatized, then you will be free to come out and be tested. So that is one giant leap. Now, that was what kept me actually late, because today again we just inaugurated, the state government inaugurated the Prevention Technical Working Group. HIV Prevention Technical Working Group in Osun State was inaugurated just about an hour ago. And the Prevention Technical Working Group is to work towards amplifying every strategy towards preventing the spread of the virus. That is one of the things. So we have the anti-stigma law in place. We have put in place a Prevention Technical Working Group. We have implementing partners that are working with us in different areas to ensure that not only do we locate the people that are positive, but that everyone that is found positive is placed on treatment, and that they continue in treatment until they get viral load suppression. That
is government doing its best.
Yeah.
The human person. You have spoken of sensitization and then even laws being put in place. What are some behavioral risk factors people who don't want to be infected by HIV virus, what must they do on their own evolution?
Yeah. Well, we always talk about, you see, the transmission of the virus would be through blood and body fluids. And then, you know, of course, it's been related to sexual transmission, but it's not limited to sexual transmission alone. So one of the things that we encourage people to do is, if you do not, you know, you are not a married person, you try as much as possible to abstain from sex. If you cannot abstain from sex, then you will protect yourself whenever you have a sexual act, that is by using the condom. Now, aside from the condom for protection, there are what we call the pre-exposure prophylaxis. When you are involved, you know you're going to be involved in a sexual act, and then you don't have the condom, you can also, there are medications that you can take to protect you from, even if you are going to have, you know, sex with somebody that is HIV positive, you have the pre-exposure prophylaxis we can use. This can also be used even by medical, you know, personnel when they are having to operate on persons that have HIV and AIDS, so that they can, or even if they get needle pricks and everything, they are protected.
Sorry, what is it like?
No, they're medicines.
Okay.
They're medicines that you use. Aside from the condom that you use, these are, you know, they are pills that you use, you know, to prevent yourself from, you know, having that's pre-exposure. We also have post-exposure prophylaxis for people who might have engaged in some risky sexual behavior and they're not sure of the status of whether they can also have a post-exposure prophylaxis. All of those ones, you know, exist. Aside from that, we encourage people not to have multiple sexual partners, to be faithful to, you know, their, you know, partner, and then to encourage people that, number one, you should know your status, and then you should at least do this test from time to time. And if you have tested today and you are positive, that doesn't mean that you might be in the window period. So you need to do another test within another 6 months to be very sure that you do not have the virus. And then you follow the behaviors that would, you know, protect you from, you know, getting, you know, the HIV into your system.
Good. It means while government is doing its own part,
individuals have their own role to play as well.
Now, let me ask you this question. Can antiretroviral therapy, one you doctors call ACT, can it be administered onto people who are not yet detected as having HIV? Now,
you would not be given, it's just like you say, we are giving a hypertension medicine to somebody that does not have hypertension. Now you can't. You wouldn't be giving like you're trying to say maybe that's a preventive method. No. You don't give antiretroviral therapy to people who have not been tested to have the virus. It is when you have the virus that you now, you know, go for treatment. If you don't have the virus, what we tell you is you go for all of the, you know, preventive measures, which we have said already, you know, personal, you know, protective behaviors that will prevent you from getting in contact with the HIV. But then if you, like in case, if you know that you have undergone a very risky sexual, you know, act, even though you have not been tested yet, you can take what we call the post-exposure prophylaxis, or if you're about to, then you can take the pre-exposure, but that's in the areas where, but it's not usually advisable. It's better for you to, you know, be placed on medicines when you have it. And if you are not having it, if you don't have it yet, when you are, you know, going to have, you know, some risky behaviors, then you protect yourself. That is all that, you know, that we say. Protect yourself.
Okay. How true is it that HIV degenerates into AIDS? I'm asking this question because somebody might say, okay, I have HIV, I haven't gotten to AIDS yet.
Yes, I mean, it is not one day that, you know, once the virus gets into your system, the virus continues to replicate and replicate and replicate. And as it gets, you know, they multiply in your system, and the more it gets, the more it destroys your immunity. So it destroys your immunity. What it's attacking is actually your white blood cells, which are the soldiers of the body to protect against diseases, you know, infections and what have you. So if you have this volume of the HIV in your, you know, virus in your system, and they are multiplying unchecked, What the antiretroviral does is it prevents their multiplication and keeps them at bay so that they cannot destroy your immunity. But then the more it multiplies, then the more it destroys your system. And if it destroys your system to a particular level, even ordinary cough can be a problem for you. Catarrh can be a problem for you. Malaria can kill.
So that's what you call underlying.
Those are all of the other conditions, comorbidities that can actually now, cause, problem for the person that's living with HIV. So it gets to the level where it destroys your blood cells to a particular level, and you say this has gone from HIV to AIDS. That's the advanced stage of HIV infection. So in the early phase, you don't even have any symptoms. But when it's left in the system unchecked, when you are not on treatment, it begins to affect your white blood cells, affect your immunity, and then you start coming down with all kinds of other diseases.
Yes, experts like you, they talk about HIV/AIDS being in stages and also in types. Would you like to take us through the process, the types, the stages? They talk of HIV-1, HIV-2.
Well, for the purpose of community sensitization and things, what we just say is the HIV, you have the early infection stage of the HIV where you are exposed and then, you don't even know it because it's not affecting your system. It gets to the advanced stage where it has destroyed enough white blood cells that you have very few copies of white blood cells in your system, and then you are now subject to coming down with opportunistic infection. That's when all the chest infection and skin infection and everything begin to show up, in the system. So that's when it's advanced. So we have the early stage, we have, the advanced stages. These are the categorization that I'm aware of. And then, for the purpose of management, in the early phase, you get diagnosed. Once you are diagnosed, you're placed on treatment, and then you monitor your white blood cells so that it doesn't get to the level of this while you are taking your antiretroviral drugs. That's basically what.
Which one is acute? Which one is chronic? Chronic, rather.
When you say acute, HIV does not fall into the classification of acute infections, because most of the time when you talk about the acute infections, there are infections that take place, and then they can easily be treated. They're in the early phase of the disease. Diseases are acute, they come, and then within a short time they go. But then HIV itself, because ordinarily it stays in the body for a very long time, sometimes even for a lifetime, depending on whether you are managing it properly or not. Because of that, it is chronic. Chronicity is not in terms of severity. Chronicity is in terms of the length of stay in the body, the number of years you have to combat with it. Just like we have the non-communicable diseases, we have hypertension, we have diabetes, they're all chronic disorders. So in the acute phase, you talking about most of the time infectious diseases. When you're talking about things like malaria and other things, you say acute malaria and what have you. In terms of HIV, you just talk about early HIV infection, and late when it's advanced. That's the categorization that we have for it.
You just mentioned it a short while ago that it could stay in the system for a long time.
Forever.
I've read it somewhere. It said 10 years and more.
Yeah, can stay 10 years and more.
Yes. That makes it very, very important for every person to want to go and
know your status.
Yes. But as the executive secretary, the control OSACA.
Yeah.
From even though you are still very new there, can our states, are we getting closer to it? Are people coming to do the test? Are they encouraged to do it, etc.? You've spoken about laws being enacted, and yes, the average man on the street
doesn't want to come and do it. The average man on the street does not want to come. But I must commend the government recently. Since I moved into the agency space, we got approval from Mr. Governor, His Excellency Senator Adeniyi Oginni, to do procurement. We have finished the first round of procurement of protective materials, procurement of preventive materials, including condoms, sharp boxes, and other consumables that are used to protect. Then we also have approval to to purchase test kits Because even if people want to be tested, if you don't have the test kits, there is no how you can test them. So it starts with first you preparing, the government agency having the test kits. So when you don't have the test kits, you can't go out there and say, come and get tested. So one of the things that we need to do, which we have not done enough in terms of, because of the limitations of funds, is community engagement. There should be continuous community engagement, information dissemination, sensitization of people, but at the lower level and at the high level of the reality of the HIV and AIDS disease in our state. Like I told you, we have an estimate of about 50,000 people that are positive. And that might just be the tip of the iceberg because, I mean, it's only people that come out that you know you have. We already have 28,000 people that are on antiretroviral treatment, that are receiving treatment. But then the state is, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, with the last, approval we got from Mr. Governor, the state is making efforts. Not all states, approve procurement of things like that for their, SACAs. In fact, some people are even saying that they want to scrap their SACAs because they lack the knowledge. So here we are doing something, but we are not doing enough. We need to amplify, like I said, we need to heighten the information dissemination. We need to produce more jingles to let people know about the reality of the disease and the statistics in Osun State here. We need to also get to the nooks and crannies. We need to, you can see lounges and bars increasing all over the place. It seems the fastest growing business now, and that's a big risk. It's a time bomb that's waiting to explode. So it's important for us to continue our community engagement, disseminate information, and then make advocacy to the higher level. I've already written to the state ESCO. I want to address the state ESCO, on the reality of the HIV. And then, of course, they said as soon as it's possible, they're going to give me a slot so that I can speak to the state ESCO. Yesterday, I was the chairman of, on Friday, I was the chairman of the State House Committee on Health. And then I want also to address the, assemblymen at the plenary so that they can know that this is a problem that we're having. That's part of the efforts that we're making to ensure that.
I want to commend you on that because that's a way of speaking to power, authority. Because these things affect everybody. It doesn't matter whether you are. We will come back to this community engagement thing before we delve. But I want us to break a little because you have been talking and I've not even offered you drinks.
Thank you.
So on a short break and we'll be back. Welcome back to the second part of Pertinent Questions. Today in the studio with me is Dr. Adeniyi Oginni. That's how we normally call him. His full name is Adeniyi Samuel Oginni. Executive Secretary, OSACA. He was talking about community engagement before we went on that break. He has started with the authorities. What do you intend to do with the people?
Yes, with the people, you see, we have people that are living in the grassroots, people in
particularly grassroots.
Yeah, grassroots people who are essentially most of the time ignorant and everything. But we have community-based organizations that have penetrated these, nooks and crannies of the state. And then we also have, structures of information dissemination across the state through their community development, organizations. We have so many organizations that are there, even through the national orientation agencies that have their offices in different local governments. We have these structures on ground, but the funding to mobilize these structures to communicate appropriately to these people in the grassroots is the problem that we are having. If we have to engage the radio stations, for instance, we have to pay for airtime, we have to produce jingles. Then we are bringing people in for programs, we have to, give honorarium and other things. And then, of course, the transportation that's going to be needed for you to go into the nooks and crannies of the state. All of these things are very, very costly. So we need the support. If, the government is actually seeing the problem as it should be, then of course there'll be more funding into the area, And because the donor partners, the donor agencies, all these international partners, technical partners, development partners, are folding up their activities in Nigeria. They believe Nigeria is rich, and so Nigeria should be able to take care of its problem. So if these development
they have fed us for quite a while.
For long, I think by now
they are suffering from donor fatigue.
Exactly, they are suffering from donor fatigue now, and so they want to pull out. And so they are trying to see how we can move towards sustainability, how we can move towards self-reliance. And to that extent, I'm trying to build the institution of OSACA so that they can be strengthened. But then, you see, you can have all the ideas. If you don't have the funding, then you may not be able to get anywhere. So we need more funding for community engagement, dissemination of information, and things like that. That's if we do that, we're going to achieve the first 95 very fast. Okay. And once you have the first 95, you place all the 95% of the ones that are positive on treatment, you're already safeguarding the public health.
Health is a general issue. It's global. And so the private man is also concerned.
Yeah.
For now, from what you have said, your activities are centered on government. What about the private sector?
Oh,
what do you intend to? How do you intend to access them?
Yeah, even the private sector operators. I mean, operators of private hospitals are also part of the HIV response race. Many of them are involved in the area of treatment of people that are living with HIV and AIDS. Many of them are, also involved in testing. In fact, the OSACA, both at the local government and the state government level, have the interface with the private hospitals across the state, where they give them data to, sheets to report the data, and then they give them also, kits to test those people that are coming, and then of course you even test them free of charge. And then, when you find the people that are positive, you have a referral mechanism that's seamless referral to, even from the private hospitals to the centers where they can be comprehensive centers where they can be treated comprehensively for, with antiretroviral treatment. So private hospitals are involved. Private individuals, private organizations also are involved in the area of sensitization. We invite them for meetings. We invite, in the community engagements that we have also, we invite people from the, private sector so that they can also be informed about the real problem on ground and the measures that they need to take to prevent their persons from, getting the HIV.
You have enumerated government efforts so far.
Yes.
That's in Osun State.
Yes.
And it is commendable.
Yeah.
But we live in a federation. Many states are not doing it the way we are getting it on now.
Yeah.
How will that ripple effect not get back to us, because we are intertwined?
You're very correct. Just about 2 weeks ago, the executive secretary of OSACA was saying that she sent an SOS to the forum of CEOs of all SACAs in the country that the government is planning to scrap their own SACA. Of course, you scrap SACA, it's a big problem that you are creating for your people, because invariably people will get infected. And sex is something that's everywhere, and people play with sex everywhere. And then, of course, if you scrap your SACA, you are reducing your capacity to be able to protect the people. And once that happens, there is free movement now, so they can cross border to another state. But then if you have a good surveillance system in your own state, you have a good, HIV testing services in your own state, as soon as they come, it won't be long before you get them to be tested. And once you get them, they're positive, you place them on treatment, and then you protect your people. So it's, constant surveillance has to be, done. And that's why we need that the SACA be funded properly. And then, of course, working together with the Ministry of Health, the SASCAP and the Ministry of Health, working together, they can ensure that nobody comes into the state within a period of 3 to 6 months without getting them tested. It is possible.
You have been a medical practitioner for
35 years.
35 years.
Yeah.
You still look young.
So they say. I'll be 60 in 6 days' time.
60,
In 5 days' time, I'll be 60 years old.
Give me a hand.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, you are retiring in a few days' time.
Yeah.
How has the situation been for this particular professional in public service?
Myself?
Yes.
In public service.
How has the road been?
The road has been extremely tough and very rough. For me, because of my posture. And, you know, I'm a shaman. I have some level of agidi. I'm stubborn.
I love to call you the Hausa man from Ijesha.
The Hausa man from Ijesha, that's correct. You know, I'm very stubborn in pursuing the truth, in, you know, sticking by the truth, and pursuing whatever I believe is right. Now that has got me into many problems in the service from the beginning. And then I came, you know, my first 4 years, I was working in the private sector. So by the time I joined the government service in 1994, I was 5 years in the profession. And so I just came in with the private sector efficiency philosophy, and I started working, and I discovered that the public service doesn't work like that. And then everybody started saying, is it your father's work? And must you do this? In fact, there's this thing they say that you know, I mean, I got pissed off when I hear civil servants say that. So, you know, so those orientation of the civil service was quite different from what I was coming with. And so I was always in trouble with many people in the civil service because, of course, I believe things should be done properly. And that doesn't seem to be the ethics in the service.
Yeah, apart from that, also there's a feeling that you have unionist orientation.
I'm an activist. I'm not apologetic about that.
You were once in, I mean, you once headed
I was head of OSAMDO. I was head of NMA in the state. I was in the national, you know, anti-quackery team and things like that. You see, I don't have apologies about being an activist. It's in my blood. You see, I believe in social justice. I believe in fairness. I believe in equity. Anything that's short of that, I will resist. And aside from that, you see, I believe in excellence. And wherever you want, I mean, I want to ensure that I'm doing everything excellently well. Now, many people, particularly in the civil service, do not believe that there should be excellence. They don't believe that, look, let's just do something, get our salary and get out of this place. But I am a go-getter, and I set goals, and I want to ensure that the goals that have been set for my agency is achieved. So I push people around to ensure that, and then, of course, I thank God for all the achievements I have in the system. From the time I joined the service in 1994, my achievements have thrown all over the state.
Yes, the most recent is where I come to, Insurance Agency.
Yes, sir.
Effective, very good, but you were kicked out.
Yes, I was kicked out.
Why? If you were that good, would you have been kicked out?
Oh, yeah. You see, sometimes if you are a non-conformist.
Yes, and that's the character I have found in you.
Yeah, I'm a non-conformist. And again, I'm not apologetic about being a non-conformist. I believe in something and I go for it. And you see, the Bible says, I'm a Christian, the Bible says that wisdom is justified by our children. This position has always produced results. Results are incontrovertible. So you may not like my style, but you cannot say that this child is not achieving results. And what we go for is the results. Let these results speak for themselves. You see, sometimes you may not, you know, be aligning with some line of thoughts and things. And then people find you uncomfortable to work with. And then, of course, we don't have to work together if we disagree on principle. So if there's a disagreement on principle, let everybody part ways and you go and do some other things. So I don't have any qualms about that.
Yeah, but as a person, as a pioneer, head of that place, what do you think you left behind?
Oh, I left, to the glory of God, I left an agency that started from 0 kobo. No chair, no table, not even a one-room office. I was given a letter to establish Osun State Insurance Agency on the 9th of February 2018. We got our takeoff grant in July 2019. Between February and 2018 and July 2019, I was spending my money, personal money, and I took my cars. I went with 3 cars into the agency. So I was passionate about ensuring that the agency was established. And by the time I left in 2023, it was the 2nd state in the entire federation that has a built secretariat. It's an edifice that you can all see is a beautiful edifice, well equipped and everything, with an access road, built. All from health insurance money, not from the state government purse, really. All from health insurance money.
Where were you getting the money?
No, we were getting the money from premiums. Premiums of, workers, premiums of informal sector. So we had both the informal sector and the, formal sector combined. and that's where the premiums, and that's that's the source of income of insurance, premiums. And so we did that. I left that with 10 functional vehicles and a beautiful secretariat, conducive environment to work, and a huge cash balance in the account for everyone to see. And so that's what I've done.
At a point in time, there were insinuations that you had done this, you had done that. I need to ask that question.
Yes, and now insinuations that, oh, this man is a dictator, this man mismanaged the funds.
Yeah.
They say when they say you mismanage funds, it's a simple thing. Arithmetic is you start from zero, you are living about, something that's worth about 2.8 billion. I'm not talking about million. From zero kobo, assets in terms of cash. Raw fluid cash is over 2 billion. And then, oh yes, you can get the records. You can go and check the records. Actually, 2,140 million cash was left in the balances in our accounts. And then we had, net book value worth of assets over 642 million with 10 functional vehicles of different, types. And then, of course, computers, both software and, hardware, components of computer, everything that's in place was about 2.8 billion. So, I start from zero kobo. Yeah. So if somebody says he has mismanaged a government enterprise and you have that, then it speaks for itself. Now, if you had managed it properly, what we have had? We have seen agencies of government that have been mismanaged all over the years. They don't have anything to show for it. You can see
the way I see the issue from what you have said.
Yes.
Your being a non-conformist, being a unionist must have robbed very badly on you.
Yeah. It's always done that.
So now you are about leaving.
Yeah.
Did you step on any toes any powerful toes that you think?
I think from the day I started service, I started stepping on toes.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
From the time I joined the service in 1994, because I remember then my boss then, the executive secretary of Osun State Management Board, they would say, do this. And then when the things you're telling me to do, I know is contrary to, the right thing, I wouldn't do it. And so, of course, when you say do something and you don't do it, number one, they say you are too stubborn, insubordination, and then, of course, they say you are proud,
arrogant.
And that kind of, you're arrogant. I don't mind if anybody calls me arrogant. People who know me know very well that I'm not an arrogant person. I'm only stubborn in the defense of the truth. And I'll do that which is right. I'm not intimidated by anybody. Nobody on earth can intimidate me. I only fear God. I respect men. I fear God. And that's my policy. So when you want me to do the wrong thing, I grew up with poverty. I grew up in poverty. Okay. So poverty, I'm not scared of poverty. So you cannot, and I'm not afraid of death too. So everything is
a young boy growing up in poverty.
Of course, oh yes. Oh, you read my story. When you read my story, I grew up in Sabongeri, in the slums of Kano, and of course my father had to leave during the welfare crisis in the Western Nigeria in the 60s. So we went to Kano, and then it was not easy. My father was involved in all kinds of petty trading. My mother was doing Oshomalo, small-scale Oshomalo in villages around Kano. It wasn't an easy thing. But through it all, God has helped us. I got scholarship from the federal government. I've had it good in terms of education and academics. And God gave me some brains. So thank God for what I've been able to achieve.
Last question.
Yeah.
How are you leaving OSACA?
Ooh, much better than I met it. That's what I would say. In fact, the people at the meeting there don't want me to go now.
But and, you must go.
Yeah, this is, but you see, they say, okay, can't you go and get extension? People are getting extension. Now I say extension is not in the public service rules. And if they even throw extension at me, I will reject it because it is unfair. I believe in the principle of social justice, fairness, and equity. But you can engage me as a contract staff. When I finish my tenure in 5 days' time, if the state needs my services, the state can still engage me as a contract staff. I'll be all too willing to continue the work I'm doing there because life has come to OSACA as contrary to where it was before.
Dr. Adeniyi Samuel Oginni.
Yes, sir.
Ever non-conformist. But ever effective.
Yes.
I'd like to thank you for having struggled to be here in spite of all odds.
Thank you.
We wish you the very best. 60 years you have joined the Elders Club.
Thank you.
Welcome and welcome.
Thank you very much, sir.
It shall be well.
Thank you. Amen. Amen.
And we wish you the very best in your future endeavors.
Thank you very much, sir.
To the viewer at home, I have in the last couple of minutes been in a very effective chat with a vibrant young man who has suddenly grown old.
I'm still young. I'm only 60 years young.
By Friday, Saturday you'll be 60.
Yeah, I'm inviting you to.
You don't look it. Yes, we will try. That has been our program for today. I want to believe you did enjoy every minute of it. He's a very good talker, what we call in broadcasting the interviewer's delight. I am Adetoyese Shittu Alamu. We'll come your way next week, God willing. And before then, we say thank you for being there watching us on Pertinent Questions. There will be another pertinent question to discuss next week. Goodbye to you all. Thank you for watching.